Have you ever witnessed your conversation falling apart in real time and then felt powerless to stop it? One of you's going quiet, words are drying up, eyes are drifting away, body shutting down. The other is leaning in and asking more questions, trying harder and harder and feeling the panic rise as the connection slips through their fingers. And inside, both of you are struggling. One is thinking, I can't do this right now. This is way too much. And the other is thinking, please don't disappear. We have to fix this. This never gets fixed. It's going to cycle back again. Your chest tightens, your thoughts race or go blank, and every word feels so risky. Say too much, say too little, say it wrong, lose them entirely. And somehow, even though you both care deeply, you end up further apart than when you started. Later, we all replay the moment in your head. What you should have said, what you shouldn't have said, wishing you could rewind time and stay connected instead of sliding into the distance. If that feels familiar, this episode right here is for you, because what you're experiencing isn't a lack of love. It's two nervous systems trying to protect the relationship in completely opposite ways, but everyone's feeling the same emotions. And staying present during emotional intensity such as this, whether you shut down or you push forward, isn't a personality trait. It's a skill, and skills can be learned. Welcome to Love Shack Live, the podcast for people standing at a crossroads, for those navigating daily friction, a widening emotional gap, and the quiet hope that something stronger is still possible. I'm Stacey Bartley, relationship mentor and emotional skill builder, and I'm here with my co-host and lover Tom and our daughter Brooke. The three of us together have lived through experiences such as these, and we have spent years guiding others as well. We teach the relational skills most of us were never taught, things like how to regulate our nervous systems, how to navigate conflict to the betterment of everyone, and how to repair our messes instead of retreat or defend them.
Hey, thank you for coming. Welcome to the Love Shack.
In our last episode number 259, we talked about something so many people quietly struggle with. It's the shutting down when things get really intense, and then the poor person who's left to wonder what to do next when their partner has shut down. And all of this happens because we don't know what to do, and it's certainly not from a lack of caring. We're trying to connect. We're trying to make progress here, but our nervous systems are completely overloaded for completely similar reasons, but we are actually managing it in two very distinctly different ways. They turn into survival moments where we're just trying to cope with the overwhelm of emotions. So one shuts down, one gets anxious and tries to get a little pushy. So this episode actually is one where we're going deeper. We're not going to now talk about the how and why that happens, but we're going to talk about more like what to do now to get out of those deep places and spaces. I want you to think of these two episodes like a hand and glove. They go together, right? So if you're just listening to this, no worries. You're going to get a lot out of this and you don't need the previous one to make sense of it. But then I would suggest that you go back and listen to 259. Right? If you've already listened to 259, well, then you're here and we're going to dive a little deeper into that conversation. We're going to take the next step, not just to understand the shutting down, but learning how to stay present when everything in you wants to avoid and escape or go along with whatever is keeping the peace at the moment. So this is where we have to step into the skill of listening. And I want to start this conversation out by doing a little shall we say quiz, a listening self-check. I want you to see how you think about these things for yourself. Communication only works if we're truly present to receive it, and that is going to require some really good listening skills. So most people jump straight into, how do I say, get better at communication? Like, most of us feel like we want to talk more, not less. How do you feel that you do in stepping into a conversation, hearing something that you don't like or that you don't agree with, and then being able to hold the emotional tension of that?
Meaning not speaking?
Yeah. And stay in the listening place.
You have to realize that the mark of a good conversation isn't that the end of the conversation the person agrees with you. You have to let that go. That really, I think, is the main kind of roadblock that's stopping you from going past that point, because that's really where we usually get hung up, where the person says something that you feel instantly that it's wrong, and so you're like, no, you got that wrong, this detail, this detail, this detail, that's not how I saw it, that's not how I meant it. If you do that every time, number one, that's going to start a fight, and you're making the point of your conversation for them to agree with you at the end, which we have to remember communication is for understanding. So I think when Mom 2 says, hold the emotional tension, some people are like, okay, that's great. You want me to hold a plank in my brain, but what do you really mean by that? It's to let go of that. Sure, maybe they're going to get some things wrong or say some things that they believe that you don't believe, but you just got to like let it be in the moment so that you can progress to the next phase of the conversation, which is understanding, you know?
And so let's go back here a little bit. I think there's some things that we need to check on as we start this. Like I was asking you to ask yourself some questions. And the first question I want you to ask yourself, especially based on the description that Brookie elegantly gave us about what's required really, because I can hear our listeners screaming, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
I've got to correct that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, eventually. But if you do it in the moment instead of seeking to understand, then it's not going to go well.
Especially with an avoidant. I know that the point of this episode isn't to coddle avoidance, but it's also not to coddle anxious people, which, if we want to be honest, the anxious people are the ones who usually get coddled because they're louder. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Sure, we want avoidance to come closer to secure attachment, but you're not going to do that with constantly correcting them. That's going to do the exact opposite of what you're wanting, no matter how painful the correction is. You know what I mean? Like, this is crucial here.
Yeah, it really is. And so the first question that we need to ask ourselves before we engage in any conversation is actually available to listen. Because if I'm not available to listen, I'm going to talk. The thing is, I've got to be able to sit and listen. And that means I'm not jumping in. I'm not making it about me. I'm doing my best to not take it personal. I'm doing my best to not get defensive. I'm trying to ask questions because my goal is to understand something, even if it doesn't make sense to me. Because if I can, then I understand more about the whole picture than if I don't. So you have to think about it like, I've got to understand this person and where they're coming from, because their understanding is going to be acted out. It is going to impact me regardless of whether I understand it or not. So it behooves me to understand them.
Well, and I would just stack on that and remind the listener, and you correct me if I'm wrong, babe, but we can understand someone and still not agree that with is not our personal point of view.
Correct.
That's a huge distinction here.
People need to understand that by understanding someone, you're not then changing your beliefs to align with theirs. You could think where you're coming from is completely wrong. I don't agree with it at all, but you see it and you understand it. Like, you can think in your mind, if I believed what they believe, I would probably be reacting the way that they're reacting to. That's understanding. It's not saying I do believe what you believe and therefore I am reacting in the same way, but you're putting yourself in their shoes and you're saying your reaction makes sense in this framing that we're giving to the circumstances. That's all it is.
The greatest metaphor that I have here is when somebody is talking, you are literally gaining access to a wonderful museum of their internal sense of self. And in that internal museum, they have their scary part, and they have their my favorite things part, and they have my hopes and dreams part, and they have a part where I'm still kind of trying to accumulate my courage. And then there's big question marks about things I don't understand, for real.
There's also like an under construction part
for
of
sure.
The things that they're working on.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so when a person is talking and sharing with you, you are literally gaining access, and you're on a tour of, and this is what it's like for me. And this is what I don't understand. And this is what I'm hoping to do. And this is what I think happened. and you're literally just being walked around so that you can understand this museum that they've acquired for themselves.
It's a huge privilege. That's
huge,
a huge
privilege.
Yes, it is.
The minute you criticize or comment or judge anything that's in that museum, you are going to be escorted out the back door and you no longer have access to it. So that's why it is a privilege. Yeah. And I think sometimes we just don't understand actually what it is we're doing. It's about, can I allow you to tell me about you? And can you do the same? So the first piece that we need to check and ask ourselves is, am I actually available? Or said a different way, am I in a place where I have the emotional capacity to do that, to maybe embark on a journey where I'm going to maybe hear some things or attempt to understand some things that don't make any darn sense to me? And if the answer is no, I am not in a place right now where I can embark on such a place, well, then you shouldn't be begging for an entrance into that museum, because it's not going to go well.
And there can even be some physical things, well rested is important. Not having low blood sugar, not being hangry, if you will. So there's some physical things that are going to better set up, create the conditions that make the result inevitable. So whatever it is you need as a person, we all know ourselves best. And listen, let's just be honest. Listening takes a lot of brain work. It uses a lot of calories. It does. It's been proven. So set it up. And if you're not in the place, then say, babe, what would they say? Say if I'm not in the place physically, emotionally, or otherwise, what would I say if someone has invited me into their metaphoric museum?
I would say, I would love this. I would love to understand more about this. But to be very honest with you, I'm not in a place where I can take it all in right now. And I really want to be present for you when we go there. So let me go do these things. And then I'll circle back and let you know when I'm in that space to do so.
I think we've kind of uncovered something about avoidance that maybe has never been described in this way, but the way that you just described what listening requires is literally going on a museum tour of someone's deepest, darkest thoughts and feelings and emotions. Of course, avoidants are probably never ready for that tour. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a huge risk to let you in, and then
both ways.
Yes,
it's incredibly uncomfortable to be witness to a tour that's, a little gruesome. If you're talking about something that's really emotional, that even being witness of the tour, not giving the tour, but just going on the tour is hard. And then you're asking me to give you the tour of my scary parts that I don't even know what I think about them, but you're begging me to give you the tour. The people who are in touch with their emotions act like it's the easiest thing in the world to do because we do it so often. We spend a lot of time in our own museums. But I think we need to understand also that a lot of people avoid their personal museums at all costs. They try to spend as much time out of that thing as they can.
Right.
But that's important.
It really is. Self-awareness is having some kind of an idea of what's in your museum.
Yeah.
So you're spot on, where if I don't understand what's in my museum and I've got somebody knocking on the door for a tour, I'm not letting them come in. No, I don't know what's in there. Right?
I don't even want to go in there. And then you want to come in? Wow, that's blowing my mind right now. That's such a good example. And I think so many people this is going to knock the wind out of their sails. Wow, it's poignant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about how we all feel when we have a party coming over and people are going to be in our houses and opening up our drawers, and our fridges and stuff. I mean, we go ham on making sure that every little nook and cranny. I used to be really bad about this. God love my kids when they were little. And everything had to be just so perfect and perfect. And we would be up days before the party or something, I'm just thinking, think about that. And now think about somebody just trying to force their way in when you're not ready for them to come in. And just please give me a minute and let me arrange a few things and let me get a few things taken care of so that I can rest and be present with you, because right now I don't know what's in there, but it's a shit show.
There's nothing that can make you more frantic feeling than that.
Well, I was just going to say, think about, you just described what we'll do when we know someone's coming to our physical home.
Yeah.
Now, as Brooke has just so, very clearly defined, how it's feeling for her. Like now you're asking, I'm going to show you, we've done the home tour. Now I'm going to give you the internal museum tour of me. For those of you that listen for a long time, I've been a real estate appraiser for, 28 years now. I've been inside 15,000 other people's homes. And I can tell you, I do my very best to take that same attitude even when I'm in their home. This is their home. It doesn't matter what it is to me. It's their home. And I'm looking in, I have to, by my guidelines, look in all the rooms, closets and everything. So I'm being rather nosy. Even that, I try to do my best to respect that. That's a lot, just that. And like, so this is just the house, let alone our internal deal. No wonder we get so freaked out.
And also one thing, and then I'll shut up. I know I'm bogarting the conversation. I can't help it. This is blowing my mind. Think about how much I'm an anxious. I talk about that a lot. I have in the past acted so entitled to my partner's museum. I have demanded to be let in. I have barged in. I've probably thrown bricks through the windows and broken in. And I can't even imagine how, looking back on that now, how violating that felt. And I thought I was doing the right thing by demanding to be let in there. When you speak about it in physical terms like this, it's like, oh my God, I would never do that in the physical realm. Ever. That's not who I am. But wow, we will just do anything because we think that that's the only way through is by getting in there. But then when you're in there, you're like, okay, what do I do now? And you violated so much fucking trust and boundaries and safety to get in. And you don't even know what you're going to do when you get in there. You just know you need to be in there, but you don't. You're violating something.
Yep. So spot on. So spot on. I know we all got to take a minute and get a glass of water because we're going to cry. I know. And then we wonder why we get tossed out and the conversation shuts down so fast because it only takes, I'm afraid. So now you barged your way in here and I'm finally relented because I do love and care about you so much. And then it turns into a place where you're criticizing me for, so that's what you really think. So that's, oh my gosh. So why didn't you say it sooner? Why didn't you? And you get tossed out faster than you got let in. And then it's even like, oh, now I'm going to take out all the windows. I'm going to board up the door and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to like make sure that doesn't happen again.
Museum is now closed.
The museum is
for good, permanently.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so it is a privilege. It is an honor to be let into somebody's internal world. And I mean, I wouldn't go into a museum and expect it to be like the last museum that I loved. Every time I'm walking into a space like that, I anticipate there being a tremendous amount of differences and a tremendous amount of uniqueness to it. And so it is, we are as human beings as well. We are very uniquely different. But isn't it so funny when it comes to lovers and partnership that we expect them to feel and think and behave the way that I do, where I'm incensed? And I am immediately turn this into some malicious narrative without appreciating the uniqueness of each of us, and that getting into somebody's sacred spaces is a real privilege and a real honor. And the more I treated it that way, the more easily I would gain entrance and the safer I would allow them into mine. Mm-hmm. So then think about how my own personal self-awareness grows, but also think about how the confidence and self-awareness in our relationship grows. Think about how that enhances the understanding, not because we're the same, not because they're like me, not because they live like me, but because I understand them and myself even more. And that's self-awareness. Like self-awareness is knowing yourself. And there's always surprises in there, regardless of how much time we've spent being self-aware. There's always surprises in there for us all. We will accumulate new things that are important to us or scary for us. and we will place them in the museum. So it's constantly being recurated with new and different things. So that is how we want to think about these things. So yes, before I gain access to the museum, I must ask myself, do I actually have the capacity to do this? Because it would be better for me to not step in there if I don't have the capacity to actually take on the wherewithal that this is going to be different, and it might challenge me and it might hurt for a minute, right? If I'm feeling spent, of course you're not going to be able to hold any emotional tension when I hear things that are not summed up, matching my expectations and my assumptions.
Well, that's where exactly we use a lot of physical analogies here, but it'd be the same thing of you wanting to go do a rigorous workout and you're not well rested. That's never gone well in all the years I've done it, ever. I don't think it has for anybody else either.
When I think about CrossFit,
Yeah.
and when you're tired and then you're trying to push yourself beyond that, and that's usually when you get injured,
Yes, exactly.
you fall. I mean,
or it wrecks your confidence and you think, I suck at this, and then you don't want to do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so listening is hard. It is so challenging for us as a human being, because commonly as a human, the minute I hear something that doesn't match my expectations or my assumed outcomes, or we have a differing point of view or disagreement on something, we have this innate, sense of protection where we will jump in and want to correct the narrative or say, no, you're incorrect, or that's not how it went down, or I completely disagree. And the minute I jump in and I start doing those things, there's no listener. Zero. And then as a human being, we are programmed to talk when chaos prevails, because when I talk, I understand myself. When I listen to you, I understand you. I understand another. So the more the chaos starts to reign and everybody starts pulling out their accusations and they're trying to make their points, everybody starts talking. And now there's no listener, and we start talking over each other because now everybody's confused. So we talk more and we talk louder. And then the chaos goes up another notch, right? And so we talk more and we talk louder until we absolutely blow a gasket, blow the wheels off. And now I feel terrible about what was said. I feel terrible about what you said. And we all are so greatly impacted emotionally that that's what actually stops the fight. It's like a car with no brake pedal. You have a gas pedal, you hit the gas, and then you cross your fingers and just hope this is really going to go well. But guess what? You know how likely it is it's going to careen into something or roll over an edge? I mean, it's high. And that's what we do in our conversations with each other. We hit the gas pedal, we jump in and we say, okay, this is it. This is the moment. We're going to talk now, and we're going to get this handled right now. And then as it starts to become chaotic and everybody becomes more and more confused and everybody feels more and more misunderstood, we talk more and more over each other and we talk louder. And then we start just becoming indignant little asses. Let's be honest. Somebody's going to shut down and somebody's going to say the last word. Or we might have a dynamic where I'm going to have the last word and you're going to have the last word. And we say some terrible things until we both just go passive aggressive. So it's listening is important, but it is really, really difficult for us. And if we have no capacity whatsoever to sit in that space of what I mean by holding the emotional tension is hearing something that I don't agree with, that doesn't make sense to me, and that I feel is not correct. Like that's holding the tension. And I get to just bring my brain back to the listening as best I can. But you know what our brains do? We go and wander off in regards to why I'm right and what my reply is going to be and how I'm going to respond when it's my turn. And I'm not listening at all. I'm actually instead formulating my reply. When I attempt to listen, maybe you're starting to realize I don't know how to listen. I've never listened a day in my life, according to what you're saying. I've never made it that far. That's okay. That's human. That's where most of us start, right? The conversations don't go well because the minute I hear something that's upsetting, I'm leaping in to correct the narrative or give advice or judge what's being said.
Think about how many times recently we've been asked on social media. I've been with my husband 27 years and I don't think he's ever listened to me. Every single conversation he gets defensive and flips it back on me. Well, I just want you to know, the listener, that that's so common. I would guarantee there are millions of people, billions of people on this planet who have never listened a day in their lives, and they have no idea.
And a lot of those, I've said this before, me included, like I can look like I'm listening really damn good. I ain't hearing a damn thing. I'm like a million miles away. I mean, I can be nodding my head. I can be,
Same.
I got all, oh yeah, I got all the tricks. And now I'm like light years away. So that's not listening. This is not, pretend and illusion is not how things are going to get better. And we all pretend. We all do. Okay. So this is so key, and you're going to hear us harp on this, but I mean, it truly does take a lot of us. And it's really the greatest present. And that's why you wrap it up and put a nice bow on it, because metaphorically, that's what you're giving your special someone, whomever, that you're truly present with and listening, because we don't encounter it very often. And
also, I want to remind you of the added pressure of getting listening right when you're trying to repair the anxious avoidant dynamic. It's like this listening piece is it's the balm to your problem, but it's also requiring both of you to resist your natural coping mechanisms by the anxious person wanting to jump in and correct and encourage more speaking from the avoidant. But the avoidant, if you do that to them, is going to be pushed further away and they're not going to want to share anymore. So the listening, it's harder, but it's so important that you listen to what Mom 2 is saying, because this is what you need to do to fix this kind of crooked dynamic that you're experiencing at the moment. And oh, by the way, anxious and avoidance are the most common pairing in relationships. So there's nothing wrong with you for being in that pairing, it's who is attracted to each other.
Yep.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. And that's what I would say is your emotional push-up. And everybody's got to do one in order for the conversation to improve.
More than one.
Yeah. And that's why we said in the last episode, you might want to set a timer, because this is real emotional workout kind of stuff. And I can't go from not being good at listening to being a master at listening without practicing a lot of emotional push-ups. And it feels like a push-up while you're sitting there on your hands. It feels like an emotional push-up. And I just want to create some reality context here. Like, we, the three of us, practice this a lot. I would say I am a very good listener. That's my work, and the premise of our work is based on that. In a 24-hour period, I have a lot of things that I'm pursuing to understand regarding others. And I always feel like it's an honor and a privilege to be in their museum and show me around.
I would say you have the largest emotional capacity and you can hold the longest emotional plank of anyone I've ever met. Your capacity, I don't have that. I'm working on it. Mine is so much better than it's ever been in my whole life. But yours is, I'm like, hello, say something. Why are you not? Stop holding the plank.
Well, thank you. But my point is actually this. There are times where even
Yeah.
That's my whole point, because we're human, right? There'll be times where Tom and I will get into like a heated topic or something, and all of a sudden I catch myself like jumping in. And it's like, but I also have the ability to know, because I'm aware, right? And I will, right, honey? Most of the time.
You catch yourself.
Yeah. You catch yourself and go, I'm sorry, I just jumped in there. I really want to hear what you have to say. And so this isn't anything that we're ever going to perfect. And every time we step into a conversation, is the point that I'm wanting to get at, is it's going to require us to do it again. Like, it's a doing thing. It's a verb. It's not something you get good at and then you're done. It's something that is consistently required in our relationships that we have with others.
The size of our family, so you're being invited into a vast amount of museums, metaphorically I'm speaking here, but so the more moving parts, as we always say in your life, children, grandchildren, whatever, more skill, more emotional plank, more listening required, because hopefully you're going to build this relationship with your special people in your life to where they will be inviting you in. And that is a privilege, but it takes a lot. It does.
It takes a lot of ability to listen, and it's hard and it's challenging. So we practice in small increments just to get better.
Yes.
So in your daily life right now, like just practice being present, right? Just practice checking in and asking yourself, do you have the emotional capacity to stay present? And don't be embarrassed if you don't. That means I'm self-aware enough to know if I can set this up intentionally for a win or not. And if you can't, that's okay. We'll try again tomorrow.
I would say practice in lower stakes environments, like if you don't feel like you can practice with your husband right now, maybe practice with your kids, and simply when they're telling you something and they get something wrong or they say something that you disagree with, let them finish the whole thing that they're trying to say and then talk to them about that thing that you would like to correct. That's just it's an easy, low stakes way. And I bet you your kids they may not notice, oh, mom didn't interrupt me or dad didn't interrupt me, but they'll feel good about the fact that they got to say whatever they needed to say without being interrupted. That's a good experience on both sides, that then it gives you confidence and you're like, oh, I did it. An emotional push-up. And then that's how you can do another one.
Well, and if you're not sure if they're done and complete with the thought that they're asking you to understand, then ask, are you complete now? Is it okay if I share a couple of things about me and where I went, what comes up for me? Or is there more you want to say first? Like, you can do a check-in there so that we want to be very intentional about when they're talking and I need to be focusing on understanding them, and when it's my turn to then speak and they're in the listening position. If we don't have a listener, we have a fight. That is carte blanche.
And it's very common, very common for us when we're first oftentimes stepping into this, especially if there's some uncomfortableness, is that a word? If there's some things, awkwardness, things that are difficult to step into, that different parts of the museum we're being led to, like, oh my gosh, what's this? So my point here is we think we want to hurry through that part of the museum. Like, actually, you know what? We don't have to get it all done in like one fell swoop. But that's just because we don't know what else to do. I'm like, oh, I'm getting out of here. So meaning like you can go rounds, you can just take, multiple passes at this.
To what would be a good example of if both people in the conversation are feeling awkward, but they don't know how to maybe put a pin in it, and what's a good way to facilitate that?
You say, gosh, I'm kind of feeling awkward. Are you too? And everybody goes, yeah, I kind of am. Okay, why don't we come back to this, say, tomorrow or in a half an hour from now? And let's just try again. It's okay. Let's just see how far we go. Every inch or fraction of an inch is progress. I have to think of it like that, because some of these things we're trying to figure out for ourselves before I can even articulate them and make sense of them with you. Like, think about the gift for a moment when the pressure is off and I have the ability to talk with another human face to make sense of my own museum. And I get to chew on the idea and I get to work it through. And they're maybe, just listening. Or did you say that? Well, that makes me think of this last thing you shared with me. Is that related for you? There's that I can offer, that I help you understand yourself. And that's the gift of having a listener. Remember, I speak to understand myself, not to convince you. I speak really to understand myself. And when I'm trying to be right for you, it means I'm trying to prove that I'm right to myself. I'm trying to validate myself in places and spaces where I have a lot of fear and doubt about that for myself. So I want to force you to agree so that I can feel better about it myself. And it takes away and eliminates for a brief moment some of my own fear and insecurity around that. Right? So I can be indignant about it, but it's really not about you, the listener. It's about me, the speaker. So that's really important for us to understand. So when I'm speaking, or somebody is speaking to me rather, and I'm in the listening position, I want to be very intentional and as present as I possibly can be to just completely understand where they're coming from, even if I don't agree. And that's where the challenge comes in, right? That is the challenge. If I get to a place as the listener, I can no longer do that, and that's going to happen, then it's good for me to say, I'm starting to shut down. I'm not listening. I can tell this is really important to you. Let me go take a break. Sometimes I just need to get up, get a glass of water, move around, kind of contemplate some things that you've said, and then I might be ready to go again. Or sometimes I might need a nap or a good night's sleep, and we come back around to this the next day. What I want to reassure you of, though, is communication needs to happen in multiple rounds, like Tom was saying. Like, we think we got to get it all done in one round, and that is so not a good way to set it up. If difficult things take 150 rounds, take them, because each round is going to help us understand things about me, things about my partner, things about us, places and spaces where maybe we had a lot of misunderstandings. Sessions like this need to include everybody taking a turn listening. So, and if you're the speaker, be mindful of that. Please don't prattle on about something and go on and on and on before you get to the point, because you're going to lose the person who's trying to listen. There's so much volume there that just by nature of what I'm being called to understand, I'm going to shut down. I'm going to check out, especially when we're newly practicing. So I want you to think about it in terms like this. Here's what I'm feeling that's a challenge or that's not working for me. And what I'd like to explore or ask you for that would help remedy this for me is this. Or, hey, I just need to chew on some things for a minute. I have no idea where this is going to go. Can you listen for a minute just so I can understand myself? Both of those are great, and both of them are very succinct. Okay. It's amazing how, especially when it comes to asking for things that we know we need, we'll sit and talk about it to try and justify the ask before I ever give it. And by then time you get to the ask, the person's exhausted, pissed off. And that's probably 9 times out of 10 why you're not getting what it is you want. And then we whine on the backside. I swear I asked. Yeah, I know, but you're not getting anywhere because you're exhausting the listener first.
You're simply just talking about all the things that they're not doing for you instead of asking for what you really want. That's staying stuck in the don't want, which is what we're so good at. You said you were going to do this and you didn't do this, and then you said you were going to do that, and then you disappointed me about this. Well, where's the solution in that? What are you asking for? You're not. You're just kind of berating your partner about what you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's never going to go well, because we can't hang out in places and spaces where I feel like I'm just being attacked or criticized or penalized or punished or blamed. It's too much to ask me to hold. But if you tell me this is what I'm challenged with, and here's what would help me with this, I can talk a lot longer about the want than I can the don't want. If I stay in the don't want, it's only going to be a matter of time before I'm going to not be able to hold the emotional tension. Even if I was doing a good job on the front side, I'm not going to do such a great job after a period of time. I'm exhausted and I'm angry and I just can't take it anymore.
And it's going to be much more forward momentum for everybody involved. If we get into, and most of us, like Brooke said, it's nobody's fault. We don't have a lot of experience being good at advocating for ourselves. And so like Stacey said, here's what I'd like to chew on, what I'd like to have some dialogue with you. And then, again, you can use what I'd like to ask you for is blank. It's literally that simple. Yeah. And that's like, can you help me say that? I mean, that's not fancy, but it's true. What I would like, and like people say, can I ask that? You certainly can. Try it, because it's that foreign to us, for real.
When people say, hey, Stace, how do I ask blah, 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 blah. And 9 times out of 10, because they're getting to the point with me, you just said it. Yeah. There's nothing fancy about it. Go say what you just said to me. And then they get this blank stare like, really?
I can do that?
I can do that?
It's fascinating.
Precious.
It really
it's
is.
Really
way better than telling your partner all the things they're doing to hurt you. Yeah. It's way better, because
way better.
Think about how many of the hugest fights of your relationship have started in the way I just described. You had the intention of speaking to them about something that is bothering you, but the way that you do it is by telling them all the things they've done to hurt you. That's not going to help anything. It's really...
Well, you don't have the part that's so important. Right? It's okay to say, and important that you say, it hurts me when, I really struggle with this, but only to the degree that you're adding context to talking about the thing you want.
Right. That's
so
important.
You're not punishing them.
That's
it's
not
the
a punitive
smallest
approach.
part of the conversation, and commonly it is the biggest part of the conversation if we mention the ask or the want or the offer solutions at all.
At all. Yeah.
This is a good example. Newer frameworks that Stacey talks about often now in our Better Love Club is the courtroom and the classroom. Okay. So if we're going to go ahead and share what's not working, but we want to use it from a place of how a teacher would do to his or her students. Okay. This is not a courtroom. We're not looking for punitive and a right and a wrong here. So that's a very, very important distinction.
The only reason you're explaining it is to simply share with your partner how they hurt you. It's not to make them feel like an idiot or like yell at them or
them on trial.
Talk about last year's Christmas party and how fucking pissed off you were. That's not the point of this part of the conversation. It's really to teach them. Mom too always says we have to teach our partners how to love us best. And this is part of it. It's when you do this, this is where I go. And can we do something about that?
Well,
really?
And look at the word that Brooke used, teach. What do we associate with teaching? Classroom, not the courtroom. Okay. I mean, so that's very, very, the synchronicity is there. And I know it's subtle, but it's huge. Think about it. Would you rather go to a classroom situation when you know you broke the law or for a speeding ticket rather than you get to go to traffic school, right? We go to traffic school,
rather than jail.
Rather than paying a big frickin' fine. Just think of that. Well, it's real.
So as we wrap up this conversation, really what we've been talking about is listening and how important it is, and how when somebody does open up to share, we really want to be mindful of how we want to treat that as an opportunity, as a privilege, not as something that we're sizing up as to whether it agrees with me or doesn't agree with me. And so these questions are really important. Before the conversation begins, check in on yourself here. And then as the conversation unfolds, check in again. Do I have the capacity to listen right now? Am I listening to understand, or am I listening to reply? I encourage you to write things down on a piece of paper and then come back to the conversation, because this is a practice. The more you do it, the more you'll be able to focus and stay present. But in the beginning, it can feel like a real wrestle with yourself. Your mind's going to be all over the place trying to understand and listen to something that maybe doesn't make any sense to you or seems completely opposed to what it is you're thinking and feeling.
I just have one question before you close this episode, because I know we have to end quickly, but I have a feeling that some of the anxious people who are listening to this episode wanting to get some tips for their avoidant partner are going to say, okay, this listening thing sounds great, but how do I get my avoidant partner to actually come to the table? Because on our day 43, What Would Stacey Say video, which was, do avoidants actually feel the push-pull of wanting closeness but being scared of it? Or do they really just think they're too busy or too emotional? And that's the excuse that they always use. You said that sometimes avoidants feel like they're being controlled by their anxious partner wanting to sit down and discuss the conflict that they're experiencing. And we got a comment that said, I'm confused on how wanting to talk through conflict is controlling, but okay. And I can just see that kind of framing this conversation where we're talking all about listening, but like, how do you get the avoidant partner to sit at the table and listen, or they talk and you listen when they're feeling like they're being controlled even by asking them to come? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have to give them permission to not come.
Okay.
That's how you get them to come, is you give them permission to not come. And then it doesn't feel like control.
Yeah.
If there's no permission to choose, then that's not by an invitation. That's control.
The window of their museum.
That is absolutely correct.
So we have to be willing to say, no, I'm not ready to come tour your museum. So again, we talk a lot about continuing to invite, to genuinely invite and not be pissed when they don't take the invitation. I know that's hard. It's damn hard. Okay. But
it's disappointing.
God, yes. Yes.
Well, and I want to create some context with this. I'm not saying that you shouldn't disclose the things that you would like to share with them. I recommend that you put it on a letter or a piece of paper or something and hand it to them, so that they have some context even before coming to the conversation. They know what you want to talk about and what you want to explore. That's a helpful tool.
And that strategy came from our wonderful podcast listener, Mason, and our member, Mason. We love you. Thanks. Yeah. I'm sure you're listening right now, but Mason is the one that shared. This was very helpful, that strategy. And, you know, it was very, very effective and helpful for him.
And
it has been for many others. Thank you, Mason.
So it's this place where I'm trying to think of ways to invite you, but it's also okay to say, hey, these are the things I'm struggling with. And I would like to find better ways and better solutions for these things so that you and I can have a better experience while we're together. That's what I'm after. But notice that that's what I'm focused more, and I'm talking more about what it is I want to create with you, what I want to solve, what I want to experience, what I'm more hopeful that we can create and do and experience together. And that's why I'm asking you to come to the table with me. Yeah.
You're also not saying it's okay for you to never come to the table. Like eventually the avoidant has to stop saying no and has to come to the table. Like, or else you don't have a relationship to
well, there's no exchange.
I feel like we've opened to more questions than we've answered, but that's okay. We just get to come back and do another episode.
Maybe number 3.
I know there must be number 3.
And if you have questions,
I had like 4 parts and we got to number 1.
Well, and if you have some questions, you know what? You can send us questions. We answer. I ask Stacey a question every day.
Questions on our avoidant video on TikTok. Maybe we do another episode where we just answer questions.
Well, and I'm learning that I can just take one of each of these parts because we really are trying to walk you through step by step how to navigate through these things better. We're not, and I don't want you to hold that over your own head. Sometimes as we learn skills and we skill up, we think that that's going to ensure or guarantee this flawless outcome where the choir sings at the end and we know we've arrived, and that is not realistic, right? We are going to get better at these things so that even if the conversations and the interactions between us improve by a small measure, we're still moving in the direction that we want to go in, and we want to celebrate those wins and see and acknowledge ourselves and each other in those wins. The takeaway here is listening is really hard. We don't talk enough about listening. We usually say, well, just listen. And then we wonder why it is I can't. It's because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of emotion that I'm going to have to manage when I hear things that I don't agree with, that I don't feel aligned with. And the minute I violate that and I'm not in the listening position anymore, then we fight, and the fight escalates in an effort to try and understand.
Well, it's like
what
you said, it's
a
true race to the bottom. It's a true race to the bottom.
It's a race to the bottom for everybody. There are no winners in this dynamic. Right. So believe it or not, I really want to say this as we close. Avoidants want to talk too. They just need a safe place to do it. They need to feel like what they have to say matters. And it's amazing. Once we start to have some success in creating that space for them, it's amazing what they start to share with us. They're human too. They need to talk. They want to talk because it's true for them. When they talk, they understand themselves, and the clarity, right, comes for them too. And it's kind of like scratching an itch that maybe I've had for a really long time. I get to feel the ease of that. And we can bank on that because we're all human.
I'll just say the wonderful Mason that I referred to, Mason has been a guest on our podcast. Now, it would be kind of hard to believe that someone that has that behavior would be a guest on our podcast, and he willingly came and was excited to be with us.
He doesn't identify as an avoidant any longer.
Ricky, maybe you can link that in the show notes. So yeah, so he was very open and shared how he's made this journey for real. Yeah. So anyway.
A tendency to operate from a place of avoidance. It was learned as protection, but it doesn't have to be permanent. You don't need to become a different person to dance with it. You need different skills. Connection isn't built by never shutting down. It's built by learning how to come back if and when you do. So if you are listening and thinking, this is exactly what happens to us, but we don't know how to break the cycle, you don't have to figure this out alone. I'm going to encourage you to book a clarity call with Tom. And I want you to know that a clarity call is a supportive conversation to help you understand your specific shutdown patterns and which skills will make the biggest difference for you right now. You can schedule yours at staceybartley.com/apply. Avoiding what needs to be shared is a miserable way to live together, and it's amazing how many years we can spend there. Skills make something new possible right now. So if this resonates with you, it's a free thing. So don't even worry about that. Just get on over there. Let's talk about the follow the fun. I thought it would be really wonderful to invite you, listener, to create a pause button phrase.
Pause button phrase.
Because the pause, we didn't get a chance to talk about this in this episode.
Power of a pause.
Like, after I check in with myself, my next best thing is to create a brake pedal, because I might become, or my partner might become, emotionally in a place where we can't continue the conversation. So we're going to need a pause button.
Something in that tour kind of triggered me.
Yeah.
The museum tour.
It really.
What the heck did I just see right there? Okay, come on, man. We've been in for real tours where that happens. You know where I go? The tour in Italy, the Below the Street.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
That was a Bones and Crypt tour.
Oh, man. Incredible.
Anyway. It's a place where if you and your partner can choose a shared pause phrase that feels safe, but also has a little bit of fun to it, it's amazing how that can diffuse things when the tension starts to become too much for us to hold.
When Stacey and I first came together, we very quickly said, everything's on the table, whatever we want to talk about. And it got real fast, real deep. And so we would say often, if something I felt was coming or like in the spirit of full transparency, when I said, okay, let me sit up a little straighter here now, but for real, it was.
That means take a breath and do a stretch, because what's coming next, or do your warm up.
Yeah. But it was like, okay, all right. Yeah, I got you. All right. Give it to me, so.
Here's a few others that you might want to consider. Timeout, system overload. Whew.
I like that.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. I'm there. Or how about this one? I'm buffering. Just give me a minute. Or what about this? You've actually said this one to me, babe. Can we land this plane, please? like I'm out here flying around and going on and on and on. And it's just a kinder, more gentler, maybe with a little bit of humor way of saying, okay, I'm starting to get lost here. Could you get to the point? Can you just land this sucker for a minute, please? Red light. I need a pit stop right now. Red light. And the last one I'm going to offer is I need snacks and oxygen right now. Okay. I'm exhausted. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But now I'm thinking of a snack and a little bit of oxygen to help me out here. So put this on your phones, on your shared note. It really is the practical benefit of having places and spaces where we have a structured pause that doesn't sound like rejection or shutting down or pushing away or criticizing or blaming. As something that we can commonly come to, that we can both honor and go, oh yeah, that's that moment. That's that moment where the tension right now is too much. Well, thank you so much for being here in the Love Shack with us. It is a pleasure. We obviously love to do this. We didn't get very far today, except for we maybe got far enough. And if today's conversation has moved you or helped you feel a little more seen or has given you something to think about, please consider sharing it with somebody that you care about. That's how this podcast grows from human to human. And if it's helped you personally, please consider giving us a review. We would really appreciate that. But overall, remember, love isn't enough, but skills are. Learn them, practice them, and live them. Bye-bye for now.
All right, it's time to leave the Love Shack. But before we part ways, we want you to know our door is always open and we'll leave the porch light on, ready to welcome you back whenever you need a dose of relationship wisdom. For more resources and tools, visit us at loveshacklive.com to dive deeper into the topics we've explored and find additional support for your relationship journey. Stay connected by subscribing to our podcast. Thank you for being part of our Love Shack Live community.